Hey friends, this is the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture, and our podcast decodes both.
Welcome, everybody. Let's just jump right into it. It appears as if Taylor Swift might be partnering with KitchenAid to have one of the mixers come out in the album colors of the green and the orange. And they did this, picture of Pop-Tarts and funfetti sourdough and some chai cookies, kind of referencing the stuff that she's been baking, that she mentioned in the podcast with Travis Kelce. And Jason Kelsey. So I thought that was like really fun. And I think it's one of those things that like makes a lot of sense because there's a huge overlap, I'd say, between like the consumers that are, Swifties and then that would buy a KitchenAid mixer. It's just reminding me of how Barbie marketing campaign and then obviously the Wicked one, which we're starting to see again, of having these like brand collaborations that really make a lot of sense for the artist or like the movie or whatever, really going after that female demographic that, is willing to buy things when it's related to, a person or product that they love.
Yeah, and I think especially because she likes to bake and she's often
Mhm.
talked about all the
Yep.
things that she's learned to bake and could make sense. Do we know it's going to be a collab?
So it's one of those rumored things. So there's like, the picture's gone out.
But they're AI generated photos, or is that something else that someone made?
No, it says KitchenAid USA. You've never seen us sparkle like this. Come back on 9/29 to see what we've got cooking. So they're announcing it. Oh, are they announcing it today? It just came out today. It's an orange one. The tangerine twinkle mixer.
I mean, that sounds cute.
They're giving out 12.
That's interesting because we don't know if it's a collab.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's not a collab. I guess it's just them trying to jump on top of the trend, which makes sense, right? Because, she is big into baking and like I said, there's huge overlap in the type of consumer that would buy the KitchenAid and be a fan of hers.
I suspect this is not a new practice, but I'm thinking of it because last week I saw there's an Our Place and Crocs collab where they have a couple of products that they're selling together. Like one of them is pot grippy thing for when you're carrying a heavy pot.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a collab doing with Crocs. It looks super cute. They also have a butter yellow oven or air fryer that's part of that collab.
Mm-hmm.
But they also had two products that they are not selling, that they are only using for a sweepstakes. So similar to KitchenAid in the sense that KitchenAid is giving away some of these sparkly orange mixers. It looks like they're not going to sell it. Our Place and Crocs, they only made like 20 or so of these butter yellow croc clogs with custom croc charms. And they were also giving away a tote bag that had butter measurements on it. It was like a butter yellow tote bag that looked like the packaging of when you buy a stick of butter. It was that. It looked super cute, and I wanted to buy it. I was like, oh, I might buy this. But I was looking all over both websites. They're not selling it. They're just doing this.
Wait, so they're not selling what?
The clogs and the tote bags, the actual core products.
Oh, that's weird. So
they're selling these little pot holder things, which are very cute, but I don't need that.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, you can't have been the only person to have gone through that. So I wonder if like that's a way to kind of like test that out. Because I was going to say about this, collab, if they're only doing 12 of them, it's kind of like a way to see if there is enough interest to like, create that color. Because it is, a little different from what they usually, put out there. But I would have thought it would sell anyway because it's, Taylor Swift and everything. It is interesting that it kind of is coming across as if they are collabing, though I guess her name isn't on there. So maybe it's just the way that we're assuming that she would do this. It makes sense for them to do this. And I assume we're going to start seeing a whole bunch of brands come out with this type of products and like merch and stuff in order to try to get as many Swifties to participate.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think it's smart of them to capitalize on this. The fact that they aren't using her name anywhere, I don't think it's a collab.
Yeah.
It's just opportunistic. But I think it's smart, especially with the kind of appliance like a KitchenAid mixer. It's not something that you buy frequently. So I think for anybody who is a Swiftie who has been mulling over this purchase for a while, it probably makes them super excited. It would be interesting if they actually do end up selling it, because I just imagine like anyone who doesn't own a KitchenAid mixer who is a big fan of Taylor Swift, I mean, they are probably dying for this mixer. It's
Husbands
cute.
and boyfriends, this is a great gift if you know that your wife is both a baker and a Swiftie.
Yeah, so
Christmas
try
is
to
coming up.
win.
But yeah, no. So I guess this is a contest, and there are only 12 available, and you have to like submit to try to win for it. So we'll see. I wonder if they'll have like the people announced, or if they'll just show up on Instagram like later that they're the ones that won the competition.
Yeah. It's cute though. I like it.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Okay, and then the second thing I wanted to talk about was director Benny Safdie and Dwayne Johnson are coming out with the Smashing Machine that's opening October 3rd. Ooh, competing with Taylor Swift's movie. But they just did another one of those videos with Kodak where they're talking about VHS and 60 millimeter and 65 millimeter and kind of like the difference between using the different methods to like film and then also have the movie come out. So I just kind of wanted to point out that, Ryan Coogler kind of started that when he talked about Sinners and like the IMAX release and then the different type of video formats. And then that now, I assume because of the success of that, they're having other, directors and hear the star talk about those formats in order to promote the movie a little bit more. And I think that's super smart.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that the movie comes out same weekend as Taylor Swift's movie in that.
It'd be completely different audiences, right?
No, exactly that. Like, they
Yeah.
probably looked at the schedule and were like, "No, we'll keep it," because the Venn diagram
Yeah.
of both of these audiences are two circles that are far away from each other. I think that's interesting, and I think it's cool, and there's something for everybody, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Cool. So I wanted to talk about OpenAI's first major brand campaign. You might have seen the three 30-second spots that just came out online and streaming. They're going to launch in both the US and the UK. It's basically running these three spots of like, people living their everyday life and how they're using ChatGPT in the process. So one of them is you see this guy trying to do a pull up, and then like the chat format pops up saying, "Show me how to achieve a pull up in the next few months." And then it like details out like what the plan is. Another one, it looks like a couple and he's asking her what she thinks of like the meal, and then the prompt is show me something that'll impress somebody but doesn't show that I care that much. The third one is brother and sister inside a car, and she's asking him, "Oh, okay, like where are you taking me?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a surprise, like I'm not gonna tell you." And then it like pulls up the prompt, which is like, what's a cool like road trip that I could do with my sister. And it like tells them, "Oh, the Blue Ridge Mountains are really nice," and it kind of shows them like driving off. The main purpose of these like campaigns is to show the ways that people are actively using ChatGPT to show you, coming up with like a plan to like, work out, or coming up with like recipes, or trip planning, which is, I think I've used ChatGPT for each of those different prompts. So I think it's like really smart to use the things that people are creating on a daily basis. And I'm sure, they have the internal data to show that these are, three of the most popular prompts that people are, asking ChatGPT for. So it's like cool that they're, using that. One other thing here that I want to call out is that they've made sure to announce that they are using a creative agency and that it's like humans making these video spots of like actually filming them and like the actors in them.
That they're
So
using real live actors. They're not
yes,
using AI generated images
exactly.
of people.
To like show that it's like, no, it's still a human process of like humans are doing this and how they're doing it, and they're using AI to supplement their like experience, which I think is really smart because that's obviously a thing that a lot of people have a concern about, that AI is going to, take over. And, we saw the discussion this last week about AI slop, right? All over, Twitter. So for them to like, use humans to come up with the ideas, to come up with like the video, to do the filming, to be the actors, really shows that they're, really thinking about the negative ideas that they have, towards them, and just using humans instead, which is smart.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting is all these three use cases of fitness, cooking, and travel. These are all high value, low stakes tactics for
Uh-huh.
using ChatGPT, right? Where you as a person using ChatGPT for these things, very valuable, right? Very
Uh-huh.
valuable for you to learn how to to learn that fitness journey to get to the point where you can do a pull-up. But at the same time, it's not risky, right? It isn't
Mhm.
about, like, "Here's how you can cure your cancer using
Yeah.
ChatGPT," right? It's not that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
even with the travel thing, right, it's 2 people traveling together, and it's not people trying to sell personalized travel itineraries that they just generate
Mhm.
from ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
These are all things that are deeply human and personal and things that individuals can get immediate value out of doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you're spot on there. I think that that's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I don't feel like I'm competing against or putting somebody out of a job, right? Because it's like
Mhm,
most of these things we're all doing on our own when anyway, and it's a way
mhm.
to enhance what we're
Yeah,
already doing. I mean, the cooking one may be right if like
yeah,
you take it a little bit more seriously of like going into like a New York Times like cooking app or whatever to like research recipes there, or you follow individual like chefs or whatever to like help you do that. But
right.
definitely for like the exercise and like travel, there aren't really travel agents that like you feel like you're putting out of business by like asking ChatGPT to give you an itinerary. The other thing too though is there are things that like we all kind of know don't give you very personalized like suggestions, right? So for like the travel one, when we've done it, it's like it's basically giving you like the top 10 lists of like the best things that you should do, right? Which is like, kind of basic and generic. It doesn't really help you do more like specialized things or like unique things. Like you have to do more research to do that. So I think like that's still like that balance there of like knowing that at least ChatGPT can get you to a starting point, and then from there you do more intense research to like figure out like actually do we want to do this, or is there stuff that, we can do here. Though, ChatGPT is improving, and like the more that you ask it questions, it will get better at that.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, with large language models, right, being derivative from other people's content,
Mhm.
I think you could take this stance of, yeah, but where did they get those recipes, right? They built that
Mhm.
off the backs of all these hundreds, thousands, whatevers of bloggers.
Mhm.
And I'm still processing how I think about this, but
Mhm.
I think a stance that I would take there is, well, food is for everybody. We have been cooking for since the beginning of our time as human
Mhm.
beings. And the pasta recipe that's being made in the commercial spot, it's not some kind of super clever, unique kind of pasta recipe.
Yeah.
It looks like a pretty basic. I mean, it looks good, right? But it looks like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pretty basic pasta recipe. So it's also kind of like, I mean, there's no modern day blogger who invented making pasta with some basil and lemons.
Right, right, right.
Like there
Yeah.
isn't a blogger that owns that. So
Mhm.
I think mixed feelings in the sense that, like, I get it. Like, I, believe people should get credit, but I also think that being able to just prepare food is something that everybody has been doing since the beginning of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also, this is what people are using it for anyway, and it's just like the point of what they were trying to, get across here that they've spoken to is trying to introduce people into what all the other people that are using AI and using ChatGPT specifically are using it for, to
Mhm.
kind of like educate users. Which I think is really smart, right? Because there's still a huge population that isn't using, AI. They're using ChatGPT the most out of all of them. It's like the major player right now. They currently have 700 million weekly users, which is wild growth because in December they had 250 million. So that's like kind of crazy numbers. But there's still like a lot of people that aren't using it, right? So I think a major thing is like, well, what do you use it for? Like what could it possibly help me on? And so this is kind of a way to introduce them to that. And like, cooking, working out, and travel are like three of the major things that people would want help in, that they can't like really do themselves as much.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And then I wanted to call out that one of the things here that they're really going for is by trying to humanize, having these like human moments, using like, humans to come up with the idea as actors and all that. They're really trying to push against the idea that it's all just like AI, in order to make people feel better about using AI. I mean, we talked about this last week with, Claude's approach and, Perplexity's approach. Um, but OpenAI is going in that direction as well. Their head of international marketing at OpenAI said that they want users to build a deeper emotional connection with the brand, and that's what they're seeing as their flywheel, is to get people connected to the AI. We saw, Sam Altman announced this past weekend as well that they're launching Pulse, which is meant to come back to you the next day with like new answers or like responses to like what you talked about the day before. So he said, if you want to go on the trip to Bora Bora, like let them know so that they can be coming up with that, right? And then someone posited that, oh, this is kind of like how they're going to head into like more targeted ads, right? And then sure enough, we hear what they launched today, which Amanda's going to talk about next, as
Yeah.
like, what they intend to do, going forward. So I think that that's kind of a way for them to get people to, want to use ChatGPT over the rest of them, not feel bad about it because it's like they're still using humans and they're still doing, this, and then get people attached to that. And it's, I think, leading to them wanting to create a lifestyle brand from it, which is what Amanda will talk about next.
Yeah. So today they announced instant checkout on ChatGPT. So now you can purchase directly inside ChatGPT, starting with Etsy sellers. And I believe Shopify stores will have this too. And now this checkout system is going to be built with Stripe and underpinned by an open standard called the Agentic Commerce Protocol, which OpenAI is also going to open source. So for now, it only supports single item purchases and US based Etsy merchants. So it'll also have multi item
Interesting.
carts, Shopify support, and then global expansion is on the roadmap too. So,
That's kind of really smart of them for two
mhm.
reasons. One, the whole idea of like Etsy being like small business owners and like, made by humans, type of mentality for me makes it easier to, oh, okay, like I'm supporting, smaller, like smaller businesses and like humans that like, I could like purchase through directly and I'm going to like find out about more products than I would usually. And then two, that helps me think that like I wouldn't be getting stuff from China that like is a huge problem with what's going on with Amazon right now, where it's like people are like, I'm getting dupes, these aren't like real products. And I assume also because of like the whole tariff situation that's like
Yeah.
happening, also makes sense. But yeah, that it's smart of them to go like smaller, so that they can I guess it's more like quality control without actually them having to do that quality control.
Well, it's aligned with the it's aligned with wanting to help small businesses grow
Mhm,
because the dupe problem is a big problem at Etsy. Like there are a lot of
mhm,
copycats, people who will copy a designer's
mhm.
product and then make cheap versions from China and
Yeah,
sell that to people. And people are thinking, "Oh, I'm buying from an individual,
totally.
shop owner." So
Mhm,
that's a problem, but I do also feel like that's one of those problems that bad actors will find a way to exploit any
mhm,
platform,
mhm,
but because by and large, still, like, the core merchant on Etsy is an individual or a
mhm.
small business, somebody who has, like, a small handmade shop, and they're trying to, share their talents with anyone who wants to buy. So,
Yeah, no,
I
cool.
think it's really cool too. I think it's a great I assume, that they're going to roll this out to other brands and
Mhm.
corporations, online stores eventually.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a great first starting point because it does immediately have you think about the person who has their solo woodworking shop out of their garage. And it
Yeah.
makes you think, oh, I mean, that person, they're known for their hand carved ducks. And now
Yeah.
anyone who is using ChatGPT to learn about woodworking or carving, they're probably going to see that and maybe they'll be compelled to buy.
Yeah, yeah, no. And then that also brings up like if you think about the types of stores that are on Shopify, it's still very like small business. I would just always, think about where I buy like my candy from, and it's always like the Shopify link. So it's like if they're helping those type of businesses get out there a little bit more, I mean that's super cool. That's like a new way of like finding out of new products, right? Because one thing that this reminds me of is I think, and a lot of people think that like Instagram has some of like the best ads because it's like you're you're seeing a bunch of like new products that are very relevant to like the things that you're looking for, that are not just the same, same old brands. I think here, like in terms of like yoga, like fitness wear, right? It's not just Nike and Adidas and all that. You're getting smaller brands that make more organic stuff, right? Or like baby stuff. I've found like a few things on there that have appealed to me, and then I go and I look, it's like a small business owner. And so there wouldn't have been a way for me to find that out unless it was like through Instagram. So if like ChatGPT starts competing against Instagram in that way, like that would be, I think, as a user, a really cool way to like find and discover new products. Yeah. So I think they're starting to realize that people are becoming more amenable to using AI. And now that both Anthropic and Perplexity have put out ads, they know that they need to start competing against that. And it's interesting that they've all kind of like played up the human side of things in order to kind of create that emotional connection with the brand. And it's really showing that that matters, right? Not only the brand awareness, but the type of like brand that you're putting out there that you want people to relate to and to associate with your brand. That's becoming more important than ever because they can't really say there's that much different. Like people don't really care about the technicalities of like how good the model is, right? It's like I just want to know that like the brand that I'm using like fits what I think of myself, and that's kind of what I'm seeing here. With what they're like building out. And I think that it's the right approach to take care of like educating their user on like what people are using ChatGPT for. And then for, the Shopify, I think it's really smart to go the small business route because again, it's playing up like the humanity behind it of like, oh, I'm actually getting connected to like small business owners and like people that are creating stuff on Etsy, um, and that still has like good associations for people. So I think that that's really smart that they're approaching it that way.
Yeah, I think one thing I was thinking about regarding the whole instant checkout thing was if I'm a small business who might be selling on Etsy or who might be selling or who might have a Shopify store, I would think about what types of content do I have or have I created that address the problem that I'm solving or
Mm,
that addresses the pain point that my product ultimately solves for somebody. Because one thing I would be thinking about is, like, is there any way that I can influence my brand showing up in
mm,
a chat GPT answer?
yeah.
So I would start thinking about like, what are the what are the long tail keywords that might signal somebody has high intent to purchase? Now,
Mhm.
it might be a long tail keyword that doesn't have very high search volume, right? But and I know that yeah, of course, Google search is different from trying to influence the AI overviews and all that stuff. But if you just think of the similar corollaries of search keywords in general as things that people are looking for, things that lots of people care about, I feel like there's probably content opportunities for people perhaps right on their Etsy storefront, right? Where
Yeah.
if they're selling K-pop Demon Hunters props, right? Like wigs or hats or cosplay shirts, that you can imagine the search terms that they might want to include
Mhm.
on their website that
Mhm.
would make sure they get seen by potential buyers.
Yeah. One thing to add on to that, because I think that's a really good point, is just look at what prompt they filled in for these ads, right? For the cooking one, it was give me a recipe for to show that I know what I'm doing, but that I don't care that much, right? Like, what are these human moments that you want to like inspire and like jump on to that separate your product versus others. Like, you talk to like your users, like what are the unique situations that they've found themselves in that brought them to your product, your service, and how do they talk about it? And then use that to create some sort of, not necessarily a whole case study, but some sort of like prompt of like, this is how they use it. This is how they found us. People are not that unique, right? It's like there are going to be overlap between, them, wanting to like find that. Like this one's like on a first date, right? It's like, yeah, a lot of people are going on first dates. Like this is the perfect like prompt for that. So try to come up with those types of scenarios and then use those to formulate the marketing that you're doing around it, or like for like the keywords and stuff.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I like that because, yeah, when you think about those prompts, I mean, people are probably not Googling what is a recipe I can make for my date that's not too, that doesn't show that I'm trying too hard. Like, that's
Mhm.
not something you Google. It's like,
No.
that's a question you would ask your friend,
Yep.
right? Like your friend who knows how to cook. So
Mhm.
maybe marketers, yeah, could be thinking about these queries like, what is something that a human being would ask their friend who is an
Mhm.
expert in this thing?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's kind of what they're trying to inspire in the ChatGPT ads, which is, like, super smart of them. Because it's like, "Oh, yeah, that is different than asking Google." You
Yeah.
know? Maybe it is, better, to do that. So, you know, definitely will be using that going forward with a lot of my clients, because that's, super smart. So I'm glad we had this, this chat, Amanda. Look at that,
Yeah.
learning from each other. Awesome. So I want to talk about a fun story that happened in F1 this past weekend. The driver Carlos Sainz, who drives for Williams, there was a TikTok that they did. The fan is asking them, Carlos, if he would put a unicorn sticker on his helmet for her, for the fan. It was a little girl, asking this about her little unicorn called Sparkles or Sprinkles. I think they haven't decided yet, which is also part of the story. And he, is like, yeah, of course, I send me the sticker and I'll put it on my helmet. Sure enough, he receives a sticker. So they did, another like TikTok about that, showing that like, look, we got the sticker. Look, he's gonna put it on his helmet, and it was like on the back. And then he goes on to like win, or not win, sorry. He placed really well in the qualifying match. He placed second, which is the highest that he's scored this year as like the new, Williams driver. And then on race day, he got third place, which is like the highest result that he and the team in general have achieved this year. And for a really long time, right? So it became this whole like feel good story and like wholesome story of how like this unicorn became like the good luck charm for like them achieving, this race win. And so now it's kind of gone across all like the marketing channels of like, them promoting the sticker itself and how they've put it on the trophy that like he received. And then now he said, yes, I'll keep it on my helmet for the rest of like all the races. So it really shows this like, fun story of how like engaging with your fans authentically and in a wholesome way can create and snowball into like a bigger story overall. So some of the organic reach stats, it's gotten them 3 to 4 times their normal social engagement. They've gotten 15% follower growth since the stories began, and all the user generated content that's coming out alongside is doing 50% better than the branded content that's coming out. So that's showing that like their users are engaging and are loving the story and like want to, create that content for them, which is, helping lift up all boats, right? As like they kind of, jump on the story and like the narrative. Um, so I think that was like, perfect timing, right? You couldn't ask for anything better for like to have the sticker come out on the weekend that they do so well and, get these results. And then now it's created this, brand loyalty with not just the little girl, but like the unicorn itself. Like I've seen that, some users are creating fan art. So I think it's like really cool that like, they created this, and something that I'm sure it wasn't really planned out is like just a Q&A that they just did to like engage with their fans ended up creating this huge massive moment for them and has created more engagement than some of their scripted campaigns.
Yeah, I feel like, people like whimsy. They
Mhm.
like these little authentic moments. It's
Mhm.
fun and it's sweet and it's easy to root for.
Yeah. It's I think it's especially like special because it was like a little girl who um in a very like male macho like sport, like racing. And then like the unicorn itself is just very like cutesy, very like pink and like rainbow and all that. So it is kind of outside of like, okay, so yeah, are you actually going to wear this, And then one other moment that I want to call out was when he had like one, third place there, him and then, 1 and 2, all go to like the same room it's called like the cool down room. And the guy who won number 1, who's like known as being very like taciturn, was like, "Hey, I see a new mascot on your helmet." And so like Carlos explains the whole story. So that added to another moment of like, hey, somebody like recognized that this is outside of like the norm of him wearing it on his helmet. And so it caused like another moment of like, all this. And I think this is also part of what we've been talking about here, the whole, forensic fandom where like, it's giving people reason to like look for different clues of like, oh, where's it showing up? Where's like the unicorn, showing up? It's not just on his helmet. Now it's on like the trophy. And I'm sure like at some point they're going to try to figure out a way to have merch come out so that like, people can like purchase that as well and participate along with it. Hopefully they're paying the little girl and her family or whoever designed the sticker, so that, she also gets to partake in the financial side of like the win. But yeah, I just thought it was like, a really like wholesome way of like dealing authentically with like your fans and like bringing them along with you and on the journey. Obviously, this isn't a thing that you can just have happen, right? Like it has to come across as authentic and like you actually are participating with like your fans. But we've seen previous ways that other car teams are like dealing with this. Like famously here, what I talked about Christina Garner about was when Aston Martin created the like nail polish, the green nail polish that was like the exact color of Aston Martin, because they saw that like women were wearing a close enough color, but not to the color. So that was like a way that they kind of engaged with their fans, took the idea, ran with it, created merch, and then, brought in a whole bunch of new female fans because of it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then to round out with our fourth topic of today, something I thought was really interesting for as a marketing discussion is Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl next year. So
Yeah.
that was officially announced. He's going to be the headliner for the halftime show. And the reason I think this is interesting is because he has excluded US tour dates from his upcoming world tour. He's framed it as more of a safety measure, right? I think the quote that was being used was he said ICE could be outside my concert, and I think the other interesting thing is he's focused his residence on his residency in Puerto Rico, and it gave US fans a destination to go to, right? So
Mhm.
that has been like, that tourism has been great for Puerto Rico. And at the same time, this is like his chance to do the one massive concert in the US that over 100 million people are going to tune into. I think it's really interesting and a really smart strategic choice because this is very much like he is choosing his co-marketers, right, or his distribution wisely, right?
Mhm.
And I think we're going to see a lot of, I'm sure a lot of upset people because these things are always divisive, but a lot of people really in support of this because people will see that, you know, the cultural representation, right? He'll probably be performing in Spanish, or at
Mhm.
least for most of it, right? If not all of it. Um,
Probably most of
and
it. I mean, all his
right?
concerts are in
Like at
Spanish,
least, yeah,
so
like at least that's why I said at least most of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
performance will
yeah.
be in
Yeah,
Spanish,
and then all
you
the
know?
interviews he does are all in Spanish.
Yeah.
Obviously he has like a translator there,
Yeah.
but and that's what gets translated into like the magazines or, the interviews and stuff, but he does do
Yeah.
it in Spanish and he's spoken out about that he's
Yeah.
chosen to do it that way.
Yeah. And I just think like by not boycotting, 'cause that sounds so strong, but by not doing a US tour for safety reasons, but doing this appearance, right? That is a very strategic choice to be like, I do want a presence here. This is how I'm going to do it. That reaches a lot of people where they are,
Mhm.
and where everyone can enjoy it from the comfort of their own homes.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it's a smart play for him. One of the big reasons is to show that, yeah, I do have a presence here, like I have enough of a fan base. And obviously, I mean, it was just announced, I think, yesterday that he's the first artist to cross 7 billion streams on Spotify.
Hmm.
So like this is coming out at the same time that he's announcing this because I've heard, I've seen a lot of people like, why is Bad Bunny, being the one that's chosen to perform? And it's like, just because you don't know who he is doesn't mean that his fans don't know who he is. And so like those numbers show that the audience is there for him. They know who he is. They love his music. It's on the radio. It's out there, right? It's very popular right now. So it's not like it's surprising, that
Yeah.
it's him. It makes a lot of sense. And then last year, I would say even that like Kendrick Lamar is smaller than, Bad Bunny. Like
Yeah.
more people
Probably.
know who, Bad Bunny is internationally anyway.
Yeah.
So it still makes sense that it's like he's a huge artist right now. He's got the album, he's got the residency. It all just kind of like lines up. But just having heard Taylor Swift and Adele were both mentioned having that idea. So when this was announced, I was like, oh, interesting. I do
Yeah.
wonder if, Taylor Swift and Adele were actually being approached or if it was always just like Bad Bunny because that also makes sense for me.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think it'll be great. I'm
Hmm.
excited. I'm not a big like music fan or like I'm not that knowledgeable in music and I don't keep
Hmm.
up with a lot of it. So my familiarity with Bad Bunny has mostly been through comedy, like through SNL,
Oh, yeah.
the Happy Gilmore movie. He is hosting the season premiere
That's
of
right.
SNL.
Hmm.
So and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if I don't know if have you seen the Please Don't Destroy video on SNL with
No.
Bad Bunny?
No, no, no.
So,
I saw him in the Bullet Train movie and he was hilarious in that. And I was like,
mm,
"Oh, that's interesting." Like
he's
I
so
knew him as
funny.
an artist, but not as like a star. So I think it's like interesting that
Oh, yeah,
he's
he's
both.
great. Yeah, he's so funny, so
Mhm.
that'll be a fun later Google to look up
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
Please Don't
yeah.
Destroy video. It's very funny.
Just takeaways for everything in terms of ChatGPT and Shopify. A new thing that marketers should be focused on is like, what are those prompts that people are going to be inserting into ChatGPT in order to like find something? Like, and is there a way that you can create content around that, whether thought leadership pieces or, case studies, testimonials, stuff that you're bringing, people back, because that's going to become the default way that people start searching. So if you can get ahead of that now, that's like a really smart way to do it. And it's definitely something I would be trying out soon. And then for the F1 story, engaging with your fans is like one of the best ways to create content because you're involving people so much more. And you may not be able to create this type of moment, but being open to them and trying to create the moments is what's most important here. And then helping people to jump on the moment, like how can they participate in like a nice, wholesome way so that they want to participate in the narrative overall. And then in terms of Bad Bunny, placing yourself and like sticking to your guns in terms of like your brand and the messaging that you're really, putting out there is a winning message. I mean, I think this is a huge success for Bad Bunny to be able to do this because he gets to, play in front of an American audience and, worldwide. A lot of people watch the Super Bowl, but also not give in to like the bigger messaging that he had about, ICE being outside his concert, because most likely ICE is not going to be outside the Super Bowl looking for the type of, listeners that he has that would be there if he was at, a regular stadium. So it's smart all around. And honestly, it's like all a win for him. Not seeing any
It totally
downsides.
is. Oh, same here. I mean, like, it's the biggest audience,
Hmm.
biggest reach. It is such a great kind of way it's kind of like a reverse sort of boycott, and
Hmm. I
I
know.
just think it's super interesting. It's such a strong messaging and
Hmm.
marketing choice, and I'm pumped. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
All right, so that takes us out for this week. Yeah, friends, if you are so inclined, please leave us a positive review. That really helps out. That really helps out indie podcasts like ours. And you can subscribe, to the Meme Team podcast. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think it's at Meme Team Pod.
Yeah, and then Spotify is at Meme Team Podcast.
Yeah.
We couldn't get to the same
No,
handle.
but we want to keep you on your toes.
Yeah,
All right.
Awesome. Well, see ya. Bye,
See ya.
everyone.